Alright, what is up guys, it is Storm back here with another video, and in this one I am bringing you part 61 to Legacy and Naruto story. Now, if you want to check this story out for yourself, the link to it will be down in the description below. But before the video begins, if you like the content you're seeing, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. I mean, they're all free, so why not? If you want some dope channel merch, the link to that will be down in the description below. And if you want to see more of me, go check out my other channels and go follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, which will all be linked down below. But, without further ado, why don't we just dive right on in. Previously. Shit, Tobirama said, jumping to his feet instinctively. He looks familiar, Now muttered. Who is that? Tsunade asked towards Tobirama and Hashirama. Judging from their expressions, they knew very well who laid on the ground, breathing evenly. The person on the ground groaned just before opening his eyes, and almost immediately, a familiar red color swarmed his eyes. Izuna Uchiha. Now, where am I? Izuna wondered. He remembered dying. Correction. He remembered he was going to die. He knew that once he fell asleep, he wouldn't awake again, and yet he felt awake. He could hear a multitude of people around him, talking, rather loudly, he might add. Shit. Izuna heard a shout, and he felt that he knew that voice. He was familiar with another one. His body felt weird. It was like every sense was different from what he remembered, but in a good way. He no longer had that constant little pain in his hand from the multiple fractures he had during his life. Who is that? A female voice this time. Unknown to him as well. Izuna thought he had observed long enough and decided to open his eyes. He involuntarily let out a groan as he tried to at least sit up. He opened his eyes, squinting at the brightness of the room. His eyes hurt slightly, as if they had never experienced light at all. Due to the pain in his eyes, he instinctively activated his Sharingan. Izuna opened his blood-red eyes, and the first thing he saw was a lot of people in front of him. He quickly skimmed over the faces, all of them strangers to him, until his eyes latched on a very specific person who had white, spiky hair, and 3 red markings on his face. Tobirama said, curling his lips in distaste. Tobirama, Izuna shouted, startling everybody and jumping to his feet. His right hand instinctively went to a single tiger hand seal. Fire style, Izuna gurgled, beginning a fire technique only for Naruto to blitz towards him. Naruto grabbed Izuna by the neck and slammed him to the ground. Traitor, Izuna roared, looking at the blazing Sharingan eyes of the man restraining him. Let me go or you will die, screaming alongside him. Naruto, however, simply disregarded his shouts and unleashed a small pulse of lightning chakra, enough to disrupt Izuna's own network. Brother, Izuna croaked in thought, blacking out. His last images were that of a man with a Sharingan that strongly resembled his older brother. What's wrong with you? Tobirama snapped at Naruto. You just don't bring an Uchiha back to life like that and don't expect reprisals. He only attacked because he saw you, Naruto countered, picking Izuna and wrapping his arms and legs together. I guess you two have a history, Naruto said. You could say that. He was my Madara, Tobirama explained, putting things into perspective. I killed him though, Tobirama said, and everyone's sweat dropped. I have to agree with Tobirama and Naruto. Bringing back a Kage-level shinobi without preparing for it was rather reckless, Hinata stated. Naruto just shrugged his shoulders as he finished tying Izuna. Why'd you bring him back in the first place? Hashirama asked. Answers, Naruto replied. I want to know what happened to his eyes and how they turned into a Rinnegan. Well, Nao began. We know that Madara stole his eyes and... That's a lie, Izuna snarled, awake once again. Everyone turned towards the tied Uchiha. That is a lie. I was dying, so I gave him my eyes voluntarily. He was my brother. We would never harm one another, Izuna said, spouting his answers at the female Uchiha. Well, that answers that, Itachi said thoughtfully. Is that true? Naruto asked, and Izuna nodded firmly. Interesting, Naruto muttered, bringing his hand to his chin. Why'd you give him the eyes in the first place? We come from the pure bloodline. We don't get blind from using the Mangekyo, Naruto said. Pure blood? Blind? What are you talking about? Izuna asked, annoyed by such senseless words. Never mind all that. Why'd you give him your eyes? Naruto asked, and Izuna raised an eyebrow. Why should I tell you anything? Izuna asked with amusement. I'm all tied up. You didn't even offer refreshments to your cooperating prisoner? Izuna chuckled. Well, Naruto didn't seem too happy. Answer me one question, and I shall answer yours in reply, Izuna offered with a grin. Fine, Naruto sighed. Who are you? Izuna asked the blonde. Was the blonde related to his brother? They certainly looked alike aside from the blonde hair and strange whisker marks. Naruto sent you, Naruto answered, making Izuna narrow his eyes. You have the Sharingan like me. Why are you called Senju? Izuna asked sharply. My father was an Uchiha, and my mother was a Senju. I had to pick one, Naruto said, shrugging his shoulders. You lie, Izuna said with a harsh tone. The Uchiha and Senju clans have been adversaries since the dawn of time. Neither member of the clans would mingle with each other. Not in these times of war, Izuna finished. Told you, Tobirama said. Bringing someone who died so long ago was rushed. Died? Izuna wondered softly. I remember dying. How is it I'm here? Izuna asked with confusion. I brought you back, Naruto answered truthfully. No one can bring back the dead, Izuna countered. The shinobi world has changed a lot. You've been dead for a long time. Great uncle, Naruto said, making Izuna's eyes widen in surprise. Only Madara was left alive. So that means you are his grandson? Prove it, Izuna challenged. Izuna narrowed his eyes when he noticed Naruto's Sharingan morph into a Mangekyo. Another one, Izuna thought with surprise. He watched the space swirl in front of him. Madara's war fan came out of Naruto's dimension. So, it's true after all, Izuna sighed and looked up, spotting another blonde man within the crowded room. Naruto caught Izuna's eyes and smirked. Meet Madara's son and my father, Naruto said, pushing Minato forward. Nice to meet you, uncle, Minato said awkwardly. You are my brother's son, Izuna asked in disbelief. Minato simply nodded. I don't see it, Izuna stated, making Minato drop his head. It's the hair deal, Kushina patted Minato's back. Tell me, Izuna began. How long has it been? It's a strange sight for me to see several Senju and Uchiha clan members sitting in the same room, so peacefully. Times have changed, Izuna, Hashirama said, making Izuna glare at the Senju. The shinobi world is no longer a battlefield like we knew it. Instead of clans, there are now shinobi villages. Madara and I brought our clans together and founded the first of many villages. As of now, there are 5 great nations. There is the Hidden Cloud Village in the Lightning Country, ruled by the Raikage. The Hidden Sand Village in the Wind Country, ruled by the Kazekage. The Hidden Mist Village in Water Country, ruled by the Mizukage. The Hidden Rock Village in Earth Country, ruled by the Tsuchikage. I think you may have heard of him. The current Tsuchikage is Inoki, Hashirama said, and Izuna nodded. He had heard the name of that talented brat before. And finally, the Hidden Leaf Village in the Fire Country, ruled by the 5th Hokage, Tsunade Senju, Hashirama said, pointing towards the busty blonde. I seriously doubt Big Brother Madara ever agreed to team up with you after everything, Izuna said softly. About the eyes, Naruto trailed off. I suppose you answered enough of my questions, Izuna said thoughtfully. It's simple really. I was dying, so I gave them to Madara. But why give them? We don't get blind from overusing the Mangekyo, Naruto stated, making Izuna's eyes twitch in annoyance. I know we don't get blind, you fool, Izuna scowled. Madara was injured on the battlefield. He was slowly losing his sights, and the more he pushed his Sharingan and Mangekyo, the more he aggravated his condition. We didn't exactly have access to proper healthcare back then, and I guess you died shortly after giving him your eyes, Naruto wondered, and Izuna nodded. So, this is Madara's Rinnegan, Naruto said, and Izuna's head snapped back to the flask on the table. I wonder how Nagato had them in the first place, Naruto muttered out loud. Rinnegan. Are those Big Brother Madara's eyes? Izuna wondered in thought, looking at the 2 floating eyeballs. We have 2 accounted Rinnegan users. You and Madara, Tobirama said, and Izuna's eyes widened in disbelief. He turned to the blonde and looked at him in both confusion and intrigue. Who do you think is out there with another Rinnegan? Tobirama threw the question into the air. How could I have forgotten? Naruto facepalmed while everybody looked at him in confusion. I forgot about Zetsu, Naruto said, remembering the last Akatsuki member. What's so special about Zetsu? From our intel, he was the recon member of the group. And that was about it, Hashirama replied, confused. Well, White Zetsu is a yes. but the Black Zetsu was different. When I talked to all of the Akatsuki, I felt his chakra. It was so similar to mine, my father's chakra, that it was scary, Naruto said, and let the information hang in the air. Do we have Madara's DNA on store? Naruto asks. You are not bringing back Madara, Tobirama snapped towards the blonde. You fool, do you want a war in your hands? Tobirama roared, and everyone looked at him with surprise. Tobirama was always a collected individual. Easy, Tobi, Naruto said, hoping to calm his relative. How about I use the Edo Tensei? That gives me control over him, Naruto offered, making Tobirama glare at him even harder. You're a fool. Madara had one of the most powerful chakras I ever felt, and while yours is slightly more powerful, I doubt even you would be able to bind him to your will, Tobirama said dryly. Relax, Tobirama, Hinata began. We don't have his genetic material. Otherwise, we'd have to find a 50% match towards him, Hinata explained. And Tobirama sighed in relief, slumping to the couch. Thank God for that, Tobirama replied. I thought you liked Madara, Naruto asked confused. As if, Izuna chuckled. I did, Tobirama replied, making Izuna's eyes bulge out. He and Izuna over there were the only Uchihas I respected back then. Then why all the panic, Hinata asks. Because Madara is both stubborn and volatile. Not to mention as powerful as Hashirama when he supposedly died. If you get an idea into his head, sheesh, you'll never get the end of it, Tobirama said, and everyone's sweat dropped. I have to agree on that, Izuna chimed in. Oh, you're still here, Tobirama stated, making everyone's sweat drop. Of course I'm still here, you bastard, Izuna snarled. What are you gonna do with him? Hashirama asked. He didn't expect Naruto to resurrect someone purely for answers. I say we kill him and be done with this, Tobirama said, crossing his arms and looking pointedly at Naruto. Ha, Izuna grunted. He would embrace death head-on. Besides, being dead wasn't so bad, it was rather peaceful. I suppose, Naruto said, his eyes turning into the Rinnegan as he placed a single hand on Izuna's head. Ningen, wait, Hinata said, stopping Naruto from removing Izuna's soul. Izuna opened his eyes and looked at the soul Hyuga in the room. This is what I talked about back in Kiri. When you can give life with the mere snap of a finger, you tend to lose a notion of life itself, Hinata explained. Could you be any more cryptic? Hashirama groaned. What I'm trying to say is that all life is important, Hinata began softly. It doesn't matter if it came from Naruto or God itself. Every life is important and to be protected, Hinata finished. And Naruto sighed, stepping back. You owe your life to my wife. Be thankful she has a kind heart, Naruto said. Huh, Izuna grunted. Please, Uchiha in him had pride. You would never thank an enemy for sparing his life. That still doesn't resolve his fate, Minato said. Just to be clear, Hinata began sharply. I don't want a rogue Uchiha running rampant in my village. Naruto hummed, bringing a hand to his chin. Tell me, Izuna, you still don't think that Hashirama and Madara teamed up for the greater good? Naruto asked, and Hinata smiled, knowing where Naruto was taking this. Naruto is giving Izuna something that all Uchihas treasured above all else. Family. Come, Naruto said, releasing Izuna from his binds and motioning him to follow him. Let me show you what Madara and Hashirama built together, Naruto smiled, leading Izuna outside of the compound and into the village that his brother had built. Outside of Senju compound, Konoha. Hang on tight, Naruto said, placing a hand on Izuna's shoulder and flashing both of them towards the Okage mountain. What was that? Izuna groaned, feeling the world dancing around him. It was that blasted technique from Tobirama, Izuna snarled. Relax, Izuna, Naruto said, calming the Uchiha. You are among family. There are no enemies here, Naruto said. Izuna grumbled at being ordered around by some brats, but reluctantly followed. This, Naruto said, stepping to the ledge of the Okage mountain and gazing into the village. Wow, Izuna breathed out, looking at the light in the village. This is the Hidden Leaf Village, founded by Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, Naruto said, and Izuna just looked in amazement. During the night, Konoha was truly an amazing sight to behold. Hidden Leaf Village? Izuna asked confused. Don't blame me or Hashirama for the name. It was Madara that came up with it, Naruto chuckled, while Izuna looked at Naruto in disbelief. Huh, he grunted. Naruto smiled and placed a hand on his shoulder. Moving on, Naruto said, and flashed them both to the streets of Konoha. Even at nightfall, the village was bustling with activity. How many clans live here? Izuna asked, walking down the streets and looking around. Hyuga, Akimichi, Nara, Yamanaka, Aburame, Senju, Inuzuka, Kurama, and several smaller ones, Naruto explained. No Uchiha clan? Izuna asked confused, and saw Naruto flinch. Yes, Naruto began slowly. The Uchiha clan lived here until a few years ago, Naruto said, hoping to not lose Izuna after this. What happened? Izuna asked, his voice taking a dangerous tone. Greed, Naruto replied, and Izuna stopped walking, looking at him in disbelief. The only Uchihas alive now are me, Itachi, now, my father, and you, Naruto said. What happened? Izuna asked sadly. I killed them, Naruto said bluntly, and Izuna's jaw dropped. You did what? Izuna asked coldly. His Sharingan was turning on and glaring at Naruto. The clan leader at the time was a fool with delusions of grandeur. He wanted the world in his pocket. He wanted power, and save for a few people. All of the clan supported him. He even unleashed the Kyuubi in this village, killing thousands of innocents just to try and become Hokage. So, I took steps and killed them all, Naruto said, without remorse. How could you just kill them like that? Izuna snarled, his fist shaking from anger. They were family. You can hate me all you want, but it was necessary. They wanted to destroy the very thing Hashirama and Madara built. Even Madara left the village shortly after its creation because he got fed up with his clan, Naruto explained, but Izuna showed no intention of calming down. Izuna clenched his fists so hard that his knuckles were becoming white. He looked towards the blonde and lashed out. Naruto saw it coming. He figured Izuna would come at him. Naruto took the punch head-on, staggering backwards slightly. Feeling better? Naruto asked, licking the blood from his lips. Izuna scoffed and punched him once more. Go ahead, if it makes you feel better, Naruto said plainly. Izuna went for a third punch, but stopped midway and took a step back. I'm good, Izuna said, sighing. Let's go eat something, Naruto said, placing a hand on Izuna's shoulder and leading him away. Izuna looked up and saw his busted lip had already healed. Your lip? How? Izuna asked in disbelief. Let's just say that I have an advanced healing factor, Naruto explained. Izuna just looked at him in slight suspicion, but if he could bring back the dead, then a healing factor wasn't that surprising. Izuna ended up shrugging his shoulders and tagging along with Naruto in silence. Here we are, Naruto said, stopping in front of a small restaurant with several stools. A ramen bar? Izuna curled his lips in disgust. Why did it have to be ramen? That shit's nasty, Izuna said, and Naruto's eyes widened. Ramen is the food of the gods, Naruto said, feeling like Izuna had just insulted a higher deity. Naruto pushed Izuna inside, who reluctantly sat on one of the stools. 2 bowls of ramen, old man, Naruto called out. Teiuchi nodded and went to work. A few minutes later, both Naruto and Izuna were served with a steaming bowl of hot ramen. Wait, Naruto yelled, stopping Izuna from dipping into his meal. What now? Izuna groaned, almost childlike. First, you inhale this godly scent, Naruto said, as he lowered his head and inhaled the steam rising from the bowl. Then, we taste the exotic flavor of the godly soup, Naruto said, taking a small sip from the bowl. Izuna's sweat dropped at his behavior, but Naruto wasn't finished. And finally, you eat the noodles, relinquishing all the softness and flavor they carry. Only when you have finished these 3 important steps, you may feast on your meal like a hungry bear, Naruto finished. And Izuna was just looking at him like he was growing a second head. Teiuchi was just nodding in acknowledgement. Whatever, Izuna said and picked the bowl up, nearly swallowing his meal in an instant. No, Naruto whined, seeing his teachings gone to waste. It wasn't half bad, Izuna said, placing the bowl down. He looked to see Naruto moping over his own bowl. Say, Teiuchi, Izuna began, drawing the attention of the ramen chef. Who founded Konoha? Izuna asked. Really? Naruto thought, nearly facepalming. He's asking Teiuchi of all people? Teiuchi was taken back from the question. He'd been asked a lot of stuff, but this was a first. Teiuchi stammered, looking over to Naruto, who was eating his ramen like nothing had happened. Hashirama, Senju, and Madara Uchiha, Teiuchi replied. It was basic knowledge after all. Izuna said nothing more and waited for Naruto to finish in silence. Ready to go home? Naruto asked. Your home isn't my home, Izuna said defiantly. It will be. Give it time, Naruto said, flashing both Uchiha to the Senju compound. Next day. Morning, Hinata, Naruto said, kissing her head as he sat down at the table for breakfast. He yawned and rubbed his eyes, pushing the lack of sleep away. Last night's tour around the village had taken longer than he anticipated. He's gone, Tobirama shouted, as he rushed into the kitchen, slamming the doors open. Who's gone? Hinata asked, munching on some toast. Izuna, Naruto answered, eating his cereal peacefully. You knew? Tobirama seethed. Of course I knew. I'm not naive enough to just drop Izuna into one of the rooms and hope he doesn't kill us in our sleep, Naruto chuckled, and looked towards Itachi, who didn't seem to like the joke. I let him leave, Naruto said, and Tobirama sputtered in reply. Why? Tobirama asked in disbelief. Because we want his loyalty, Hinata began, just as Naruto opened his mouth to reply. We want him to choose to live with us by his own free will. He was born at a different time than ours, and never got to experience this village system like you and Hashirama. Telling him that Konoha was built by Madara, and trapping him here would do more harm than good. He needs to choose by himself where he stands in this new world, Hinata explained, and Naruto nodded. You took the words right from my mouth, Naruto nodded, until a thought crossed his mind. That's rather creepy, how you said exactly what I wanted to say. Maybe I should stop feasting in your brains at night, Hinata said thoughtfully, sticking her tongue out. The brains from which head? Naruto whispered huskily into her ear. That's lame, she groaned in reply while Naruto laughed. You're a pervert, no matter how much you deny it, Kurama muttered from his mind. So you let him go, just like that? Tobirama asked, shaking his head in disappointment. Naruto and him did agree on a lot of stuff, but Naruto had more trust in other people than him. Did you even tag him with the Hiraishin seal? Tobirama asked, hoping for a yes. No, Naruto replied, and Tobirama hung his head. He battled you extensively throughout his life. You would recognize that seal in a heartbeat. So you just let him go. Just like that, Tobirama asked. Yes. You're too trusting. Just hope it doesn't come back and bite you in the ass, Tobirama warned and sat down to eat as well. If my ass hurts, you'll be the first to know, Naruto replied, making Tobirama look dangerously at him. A few days later. All ready to go? Tsunade asked, looking at both Naruto and Hinata, her chosen bodyguards of the 5 Kage summit that would take place in the Land of Iron in a few hours. Tobirama was also tagging along, but for other reasons, primarily one Mizukage. Leave the cloak, Naruto, Tsunade warned. I don't want the other Kages thinking you're the new ringleader for the Akatsuki, she said. In no way, I am the new leader, Naruto replied. Do you want to be jumped by the other Kages? Tsunade asked in disbelief. It might be fun fighting 3 or 4 Kages at once, Naruto pondered, while Tsunade just looked at him blankly. I never had the chance to go all out. It's like my eyes are itching for relief, Naruto explained, and Tsunade sighed dramatically. Anyways, are you both ready? Naruto asked, placing a hand on her shoulder and the other on Hinata. We're going now. We'll see you in a few hours, Naruto said to the rest of the compound as he teleported away, towards the Land of Iron with both Tsunade and Hinata. They arrived at their destination in the blink of an eye. It was snowing in the Land of Iron as they walked towards the gates, leading inside the small castle where the meeting was to be held. They approached the big wooden double doors, and were greeted by samurai. Welcome, Lady Okage, Mifune said, bowing with respect. Good to see you as well, General Mifune, Tsunade replied back, bowing as well to the leader of the samurai. Lord Tobirama, it seems the news was true. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mifune said, and Tobirama nodded in reply. Lady Hinata, it's good to see you as well, Mifune said, and Hinata nodded. Mifune turned towards the last element, our particular blonde we all know and love. Naruto, Mifune said with a chuckle. Old man, Naruto smirked back. Naruto, Tsunade shouted, grabbing him by the scruff of his hair and forcing him to bow. Show some respect to your elders. It's fine, Lady Tsunade, Mifune replied kindly. We've met almost a year ago during his training trip. And you let him call you old man? Tsunade asked in disbelief. I'm not getting any younger, Mifune laughed heartedly. Besides, we both know that he has respect for us, even if he doesn't show it in his words. I guess. Come, Mifune smiled. The other Kages have yet to arrive, Mifune said, leading Tsunade inside. Naruto was about to follow when Hinata tripped. Naruto's lightning reflexes came in handy as he gripped her by the arm and stopped her from hitting the ground. Did you seriously trip? Naruto asked in disbelief. How would a shinobi even trip, much less a shinobi of Hinata's caliber? I just zoned out for a little, Hinata chuckled weakly, blinking her eyes quickly like they were burning. She felt like she was awake for days. What's wrong? Naruto asked. The last couple of days have been weird. I get these random waves of pain in my forehead. Sometimes the pain just lingers around. Not that painful, just an annoying drone during the day, Hinata said. Why didn't you say anything? Naruto asked softly. I didn't want you to worry, Hinata mumbled, and Naruto smiled. I want to worry. It's my job to take care of you, Naruto said firmly, placing both hands on her shoulders. Let me see, Naruto said, activating his Rinnegan and poking her forehead with 2 fingers. A soft green glow enveloped his fingers and started sinking into her forehead, spreading around her forehead seal. What is that? Naruto wondered, feeling that something strange was happening to her body. It can't be. Naruto's eyes widened in disbelief, and he jumped backwards from surprise. Hinata opened her eyes when she felt Naruto's hand leaving her forehead. What's wrong, Naruto? Hinata asked, worried by his reaction. Naruto only smiled in reply and approached her. Something amazing is coming to this world, Naruto said, resting his forehead in hers, his Rinnegan staring at her Byakugan. What's coming? Hinata asked with hope. Naruto is happy, so it must be something good, right? Naruto, Hinata, come inside, Tsunade shouted from the entrance, breaking Naruto's explanation. We'll talk later, Naruto said, and Hinata nodded, walking next to him. She was happy that these erratic waves of pain were nothing to worry about. Few hours later, meeting. Now that the Mizukage has arrived, we can finally begin this meeting. I am Mifune, general of the samurai in the Iron Country, and it's my pleasure to host the 5 Kage meeting. Please introduce yourselves, Mifune said, folding his hands and resting his elbows on the table. Mei Terumi, 5th Mizukage, Mei said, placing her dark blue hat on the table. 4th Raikage, Ei said, throwing his yellow hat to the table. Baki, 5th Kazekage, Baki answered, placing down his green hat. Anoki, 3rd Tsuchikage, Anoki replied, placing down his brown hat. Tsunade Senju, 5th Hokage, Tsunade finished, placing down her hat as well. Good, Mifune said with a smile. Acting as a mediator for powerful figures as Kages when there is so much history between their villages wasn't easy. Now, I believe the Tsuchikage should begin since he was the one that called this meeting in the first place, Mifune explained, gesturing to the old Hokage. Lord Tsuchikage, when you are ready, Mifune said, and leaned backwards as a sign for Anoki to proceed. Anoki nodded silently and sat somewhat straight. He cleared his throat and simply said one word. Akatsuki. What of it? Mei asked, folding her arms across her chest. As you know, the Akatsuki appeared many years ago, but only in the last 3 they have become active. And in only 3 years they have captured nearly all of the Biju, Anoki said and let it hang in the air. Your worries are unwarranted, Anoki, Ei grunted. I believe you heard the news regarding the Jonin exams I hosted in Kumo, Ei asked, and Anoki nodded. I believe the Hokage could explain better, Ei said, giving a nod towards the blonde Hokage. If you allow it, I'll call Naruto to explain since he was the one on the battlefield, Tsunade asked towards the Kages and Mifune, who all nodded in agreement. Naruto, Tsunade called, and Naruto jumped from the overwatch and stood behind Tsunade. Tsunade gave a small nod and Naruto stepped forward slightly. The Akatsuki is finished. During the Jonin exams, they launched a full-scale invasion of Kumo. Of the original 10 members, only 7 were active at the time. Deidara and Sasori attacked the leaf and nearly captured the Nanabi, but were defeated in the end. The remaining 5 members, Tobi, also known as Fugaku Uchiha, the Uchiha clan head, Kisame, Konan, Setsu, and Pain, also known as Nagato, attacked Kumo. I summoned the 10 dragons of the leaf and swept the floor with them. By the end of the battle, only Konan and Setsu were left alive. I allowed Konan to live and return to the reign to rule it in peace. We didn't need another Hanzo popping out in that poor village. Setsu's whereabouts are currently unknown, Naruto explained. Yes, the 10 dragons of the leaf. Konoha sure came out good because of that invasion. Having a few legends resurrected is always nice, Anoki spat, making the Hokage slightly tense. Having an influx of 5 S-rank shinobi to any village was a large boost in power, and wars had been started for less than that. Although Tobirama seems to be getting a little handy with the Mizukage, Anoki stated. Huh, Mei replied. That was uncalled for, Lord Tsuchikage, Mifune warned, while Inoki just grunted in reply. If you call this meeting just for this, then you're wasting my time, Ace said. The Akatsuki's defeated, true, but what happened to the Biju they caught? Inoki asked, making everyone's eyes widen in sudden enlightenment. So, that's the reason of this meeting, Naruto said with a smile. You want to know the fate of the Biju? I already know the fate of the Biju, boy, Inoki sneered. I heard the most interesting news about some new pets Konoha had acquired in the last few days, Inoki said, and Kurama snarled inside Naruto's mind at the word pet. It seems we've been lied to, Kages, Inoki said, addressing Mei, A, and Baki. It seems Konoha is in possession of 8 Biju. The last one is the Hachibi, still in possession of Kumo, Inoki said, and only Baki seemed surprised at the news. Without their single Biju, the Ichibi, Suna had been left alone of the Akatsuki troubles. Where are you going with this, Inoki? Mei asked, narrowing her eyes at the aged Kage. It's very simple, my dear. Inoki gave a crooked smile. I want my Biju back, Inoki said in a firm voice. Naruto sighed and looked back towards Tsunade, who seemed to be pondering the options. A wrong answer, and this was definitely war. Give us a few moments, Tsunade said, beckoning Naruto to stand close to her. Inoki grunted in acknowledgement and everyone waited a few moments for the whispers between Naruto and Tsunade to end. So, have you come to an answer? Inoki asked, getting impatient. The meeting was already 1 hour in. Tsunade nodded and Naruto stepped forward. The answer is no, Naruto said, and Inoki jumped from his seat. What? He snarled. Both the Gobi and the Yonbi belong to Iwa. I demand they be returned to us, Inoki said with a harsh tone. The Biju are not yours, old man, Naruto said, making the room gasp. They're mine, and mine alone. Tsunade, Inoki started with a dangerous tone. Does this boy speak for you and the leaf? He asked. Yes, Tsunade replied with a little hesitation. I see, Inoki replied, sitting back down and turning towards Naruto. You are walking a dangerous path, boy, Inoki said, and Naruto just laughed in reply, making everyone look at him in confusion. Seems the old age has gotten to you, Naruto said, and Inoki merely sneered in reply. The Biju belong to me, not the leaf. Don't get other ideas in your head, and when the time comes, despite my respect for A and Kumo, I will come for the Hachibi, and in the meantime, if you want a war, then I will give you one, Naruto said in a cold tone. I don't need a village to support me. I don't need a village to stand behind me. I will personally walk through the front gates of Iwa with 8 Biju behind me and lay waste to your village, Naruto said coldly. Tsunade was sitting a bit uncomfortable in her seat. Naruto was coming off a bit strong. The other Kage just watched the events unfold and witnessed the start of the 4th Great Shinobi War. Such arrogance. You are just like him, Inoki sneered. At least your father had some decency. I'm not my father, Naruto replied. No, you are not. At least we agree on that, Inoki grunted. Is that your final answer? Inoki asked, and Naruto nodded. Let the world know who was responsible for this, Inoki said, with a tone of finality, making everyone wonder what the old Kage was up to. The Tsuchikage slowly moved out of his seat, hands behind his back as he calmly strolled to the center of the room. Then, to everyone's surprise, he began to levitate above the ground, standing a few feet from the ground level. The old Kage closed his eyes and stood there, floating and seemingly meditating in the middle of the room. Have you gone insane in your old age, Inoki? A sighed. Iwa shall never bow to Konoha or its allies, Inoki roared, extending both arms forward, a jutsu leaving his lips with a harsh tone. Dust release. Detachment of the primitive world, as the Tsuchikage called this technique. A large, transparent cube appeared with the pure white sphere located inside. The sphere suddenly expanded into a cone-shaped structure. Inoki pointed his technique towards Tsunade, Naruto, Mei, and A. The technique glowed white and enveloped the 3 Kage alongside Naruto. Then suddenly it imploded, destroying everything inside and around. When the dust cleared, all 3 Kage and Naruto were gone, along with a table and a chunk of the wall. At least, that was what the Tsuchikage intended to do, but he never counted on Naruto being unpredictable as he was. The moment that Tsuchikage extended his arms for his jutsu, Naruto activated his Sharingan. His eyes started swirling as Inoki's jutsu formed into the white sphere. Then, to Naruto's surprise, His own arms moved almost unconsciously. He could see it. He understood how it worked. Time seemed to slow down as he watched Inoki pouring Earth Chakra and forming the outer, translucent shell of his jutsu. Then each arm added the next components. His left arm added a small flame of Fire Chakra, and his right arm added a burst of Wind Chakra. The Wind Chakra enveloped the Fire Chakra, creating a small vortex of fire inside the sphere. As both elements empowered each other, the sphere started to glow almost a pure white. What Naruto didn't know was that he was performing the exact same steps as he watched Inoki. Then, a mere fraction before it all began, time seemed to resume. Dust release, both Naruto and Inoki said simultaneously. Detachment of the primitive world. Both techniques clashed in the middle of the room. The point of impact glowed white, covering the room in a blinding light. Where Inoki had the experience and skill of this technique, Naruto had his powerful chakra and his vast reserves to compensate for that. The room rumbled from the power of both techniques. From the point of impact, the small sphere started forming and growing in size, destroying the ground and quickly increasing in size. The Kage and their bodyguards seemed to snap from their shock and all jumped away to safety. Suddenly, just like it began, the jutsu imploded and the piercing light died down. Everyone was staring at Naruto and Inoki. Even they seemed to be in shock. Inoki for seeing Naruto copy his jutsu, and Naruto himself for being able to copy said jutsu. Inoki, Ace snarled, being the first to break from the shock. He bent down and jumped towards the levitating Inoki, tackling the old man to the floor. Naruto was shaken from his shock, noticing the entire room about to explode in war. He took a deep breath, and sent his golden chains to immobilize everyone in the room, most already running through hand seals. "Everyone, calm the fuck down," Naruto roared, releasing a wave of chakra that made the room shake slightly. Naruto released his chains, leaving them only around Inoki and his bodyguards, Kurosuchi and Akatsuchi. "Good," Naruto said in his normal voice. He rose a single hand sign and tried the jutsu once again. He was once again shocked to see a small white spark at the tip of his fingers, forming the perfect sphere he had used. "Inoki," Mifune said harshly, forgetting his niceties. "What is the meaning of this? You dare attack foreign Kages on neutral ground?" he asked, his voice taking a deeper tone. "It would seem that Iwagakure will go to war over the Bijuu, and not against Konoha alone," Tsunade explained, looking at the chained Kage on the floor. "Yes," A drawled. "It would seem our alliance agreement got public. What's your take on this, Lord Kazekage?" Mei asked towards Baki. "You are, after all, allied with Iwagakure, are you not?" Mei asked sweetly, making Baki take a step back and gulp in fear. "I assure you," Baki tried to reason, "I knew nothing of his plans for this meeting." "Prove it," Naruto challenged, extending his arm for Baki to take. The Kazekage, however, didn't even hesitate and placed his hand on Naruto's. Human path, Naruto thought, taking particular care to keep his eyes closed. He scanned through his memories and found nothing. "He's clear," Naruto said, and Baki released a breath of relief he didn't know he was holding. "What are we gonna do with you, Inoki?" Tsunade sighed, leaning back on what remained of the wooden desk they had been sitting on. "Lord Mifune," a single samurai burst into the room, urgency in his voice. "Iwagakure is marching towards us," the samurai explained, and everyone looked back to Inoki, who had a crooked smile. "How many?" Mifune asked quickly. "A full battalion of approximately 1,000 men crossed our borders, and are taking position around the castle's main entrance as we speak," the samurai explained. "We have closed the gates and barricaded the entrance." "It would seem Inoki wasn't as insane as we thought," Naruto said. "This meeting wasn't about the Akatsuki or the Bijuu. They were just an excuse for him to try and get rid of the Konoha-Kiri-Kumo alliance. If no one survived, there would be no report of what happened here, and a small lie would be sufficient," Naruto explained. "You're pretty sharp," Inoki commented to the boy, "but not even all of you can stand against 1,000 shinobi all around Jonin level," Inoki said, pleased with the strength of his forces. "Do not worry. This castle was created to withstand heavy siege," Mifune explained. "That won't work against Iwa shinobi," Tsunade sighed. "They are highly skilled in earth ninjutsu, and will bring down these walls in minutes. Then, I suggest we man the walls," Mifune offered, and everyone nodded. "And him?" they asked, nodding towards Inoki and his bodyguards. "I'll bring him along, so he can see what his decisions brought," Naruto said, and everyone left the room. With Iwa's battalion, "Get ready, men!" Kitsuchi shouted to the shinobi standing behind him. "Are you sure about this?" Ren asked with doubts. "We're going to attack the Kages," she muttered. "Are you loyal to Iwa, or that Naruto fellow?" Taisuke asked. With a sneer, and Ren stayed silent. "Just stay back," Taisuke sighed. "You are not here to be a frontliner. You are here to sense enemy movement." Okay, Ren said slowly and sat down, crossing her legs and placing her hands on the ram seal. "Begin," Kitsuchi shouted. "Earth style, Earth Dragon Bullet!" With Kages. "This won't hold much," Mei said, frowning at the defenses they had placed. While the gates were metal, their barricade was nothing but a few chunks of wood pressed against the gates. "Take cover!" one of the samurais on the wall shouted, as thousands of rocks and hardened mud rained upon the castle. Everyone inside hugged the walls for cover as the attack smashed against the walls. At first, it did nothing, but over time the continuous impacts of small rock was beginning to crack the walls. "Should we answer back?" Baki asked, siding with the other Kages. What Inoki had done was foolish, and knew that Suna wouldn't stand against 3 allied villages. "Get back!" Hinata shouted, beckoning everyone to stay from the walls. Naruto felt a large spike from the invading forces. The whole castle started rumbling as the walls started simply sinking into the ground, inch by inch. The vast and thick wall that separated the inner castle from the outside was simply sinking into the earth, as if being swallowed by a swamp. "Stay here," Naruto said, walking forward. "What are you gonna do?" Tsunade asked quickly. "What I do best," Naruto replied, and jumped over the sinking walls. With Iwa's battalion. "Enemy incoming!" Ren shouted to the battalion, forcing everyone to halt their jutsu. The moving earth core technique required a lot of chakra and made the user stationary, and thus vulnerable to an attack. "Men, forward!" Kitsuchi bellowed, and the shinobi charged forward, running towards the enemy. "No! Run away!" Ren shouted, but they never heard her. "It's Naruto," she whispered, her voice falling on deaf ears. "Kunai Shadow Clone Jutsu," Naruto said, throwing a single kunai into the air. The kunai quickly multiplied into hundreds and started raining down against the Iwa army. "Earth style, Earth wall," the forward shinobi shouted, raising a wall in front of their army and blocking every single kunai. "The bastard thinks we didn't learn anything from the yellow flash back then," one shinobi sneered. What they didn't expect in a million years was for Naruto to simply appear through the walls like a ghost, speeding towards them at fast speeds. He blinked, and Naruto was suddenly upon him, delivering a lightning-empowered punch against his gut. His last image was a pair of glowing red eyes with black markings. Water style, great exploding water wave. Naruto pumped his lungs with chakra and unleashed a gigantic wave over the army. They raised defensive walls, but the water was like a tsunami. Not even the earth nature power over the water nature seemed to stop it. Lightning style, lightning dragon. A blue dragon with piercing yellow eyes sparkled out of Naruto's hands and dove into the wave. Naruto watched as the electrified tsunami washed down and dealt with the frontliners. Kitsuchi snarled, seeing most of the army defeated in the blink of an eye by a water jutsu. "Earth style, mountain jutsu," he roared, slamming both hands on the ground. Naruto stopped walking when he felt the earth rumble beneath him. Around him, 2 enormous rock formations rose from the ground. They started moving toward one another, Naruto still caught in the middle. "Let's try this," Naruto wondered, raising his hands forward. Dust release. Detachment of the primitive world. The same white sphere he had used before appeared in his hands. The sphere expanded and completely leveled the ground around him, destroying the towering slabs of earth. "Not possible," Kitsuchi muttered, seeing his strongest attack neutralized with the Tsuchikage's dust style. "Bastard," he snarled, running towards Naruto. "Earth style, stone fist jutsu." Kitsuchi charged forward, sending his stone-covered fist crashing against the blonde. Naruto simply raised a hand and blocked the strike with an open palm, much to Kitsuchi's shock. "Chidori," Naruto said, unleashing lightning chakra from the same hand he used to defend. The lightning completely destroyed the rock shell, and electrocuted Kitsuchi, who fell to his knees, twitching all over. "Bastard," Kitsuchi said, before blacking out. Naruto stepped over Kitsuchi and continued with his onslaught until he reached the last person on the army. "Ren," Naruto said, but she stayed silent. She looked up and only caught a glimpse of yellow hair before she saw nothing more. It was done. With Kages. Inoki smiled when he heard his army yell and charge forward. He could feel the ground trembling. This caused by his army running forward. His grin quickly fell out of his face when the scream of charges were replaced with the screams of fright. Inoki's eyes widened when he saw his own technique shine in the distance. Then, silence. His heart was hammering in his chest as Inoki waited for a sound. Anything. The silence was leaving a sinking feeling in his guts. Then he saw it, a glimpse of that familiar hair, approaching the castle through the mist of the dust. Naruto walked inside, his face covered with dirt, and his hair stained red. He had so much blood on him that his hair seemed red instead of yellow. "It's done," Naruto simply said. "What have you done?" Inoki yelled in despair, fighting against the restraints. "What was necessary," Naruto replied with a heavy heart. "This is what will happen to your village if you continue to pursue your goals. Forget the Biju. They aren't meant to be used as weapons, and as long as I live, they will never be again," Naruto explained, and Inoki dropped his head. Naruto could see tears running down the man's cheeks. He had just brought 1,000 of his men to die. Clapping could be heard. Everyone looked towards the origin of the clapping sound. Their eyes widened, fear and disbelief, when they saw Madara Uchiha sitting on one of the rocks, slowly clapping. "Looks like Zetsu wasn't lying about you, Naruto. You do dance rather well," Madara said with amusement. "Madara?" Tsunade said with astonishment. "He's an Edo Tensei," Naruto said, looking at the fracture marks all over his skin. Now, Madara began, rising from the stone. "That's no way to greet family. How about giving your old man a hug?" he asked with amusement. Everyone just stood there, gaping like a fish. Here stood Madara fucking Uchiha, the man that was supposed to be dead, cracking a liner. Naruto stammered, scratching his head in confusion. He didn't know how to handle this. "Why are you here, Madara?" Tsunade snarled. "Easy, Senju," Madara replied calmly. "I came to offer you all a choice. Either give me the Biju," Madara said, looking pointedly at Naruto, "or you will have war," Madara warned, his tone getting lower. "Biju are mine," Naruto replied, "and not even you will get them. You're the other Renegon, aren't you? You were the one that summoned that Geromazo," Naruto stated. His initial suspicions had been confirmed. "Guilty as charged," Madara said, raising his arms in defeat. "But I do have to thank you," Madara said, getting a confused look from Naruto. "You gave me my brother back," Madara smirked. "Told you," Tobirama grunted. "And as a gift in return, I came here to offer all of you a choice. You either deliver me the Biju peacefully, or I will give you a war." Iwagakure today was only a taste. "It's amazing what the power of suggestion can do, isn't it, Inoki?" Madara asked with amusement. "A suggestion here, a suggestion there. Couple that with your already existent hate towards the leaf, and here you go, bringing an army to kill your enemies," Madara said, making everyone stare at him in shock. Inoki was just looking blankly at the ground. "Don't feel so bad," Madara appeased. "Naruto was rather mild with them. They were all knocked out, you know. They're still alive," Madara explained, and Inoki's head snapped up and looked towards Naruto. Naruto noticed Inoki looking at him with pleading eyes, as if to confirm what Madara said. "It's true, they're only knocked out. The blood on me was only a simple genjutsu," Naruto confirmed, and Inoki could sigh in relief. "Anyway, he may be mild, but I am not," Madara smirked, and nodded towards the outside of the castle. The night sky was immediately lit ablaze. "No!" Naruto yelled, flashing towards the battlefield. He saw a clone of Madara do a single handstand and spew an ocean of fire against the unconscious shinobi lying on the ground. Water style, great exploding water wave. Naruto did the same jutsu yet again, this time twice as powerful as before. The gigantic waves swallowed Madara's jutsu, immediately putting out the fire all over, and saving the Iwo shinobi from being burned up. He watched the clone of Madara smirk and dispel in smoke. Naruto flashed back to the Kage, and every single one was on the ground in pain, their bodyguards completely out. What happened? Naruto thought. He'd only been gone for a minute at the most. "Hinata," Naruto wondered, looking around but didn't spot her. "Where's Hinata?" Naruto asked, rushing to Tsunade's side. She looked up and groggily extended her arm. Naruto opened his hands and watched as Tsunade dropped something in it. Naruto looked at the item, and it was Hinata's wedding ring. "I'm sorry, Naruto. We tried," Tsunade coughed. No, Naruto thought, backing away. Madara couldn't have taken her. No. Hinata! Naruto screamed. 愛してる